Welcome to the section for competition and presentation. If you're not a competitor, this section still applies to you because this is how we're going to make our dance look and feel interesting with different angles and articulation and how we move, not just if you have a bib number on or not. All right, so starting off, we are facing you, we are facing the camera. And when we do this, you have the best sense of presentation. If I'm in profile mode, it's not as good. So what we try and do when we're in a performance is give either a back line or a front line. And as we do this, we're going to be formatting movements. I don't like to use the word moves, but movements towards an audience. So I'm going to give you some examples of bad formatting and good formatting. Now, this isn't, keeping in mind, this is a presentation. This is not about where the judges are. So if this were a group heat of a WSDC convention and the judges are all standing on the back row, that doesn't matter. What matters is where the cameras and the audience are. The judges can see from the back angle or front angle and make the same marks, okay? So if I were going to bring Tess Minnick into like a little lean, dip, and a catch, this would look much better from the front. Versus if it still hit the music and I went boom, ba, boom, ba, it's still a back line, but we're hiding all of this beautifulness from the audience, all right? So with that in mind, you're going to be learning how to take your movements and then change them to the, what I call the other side. What you see in lots of lower competitive level competitive dances, is you'll see a lot of a prep for a break where someone rolls someone and goes to a monkey bar, and that's really an aesthetically not a good look, versus if you could quickly change your format, hit that same movement, ha, boom, and it's going to face out more, that's going to be a lot more interesting to the human eye and to the audience's eye. As we're talking about formatting to the front, and the easiest way to practice this is just to set up a camera, and when you dance, if you were to start your dance here, even if you're looking at the audience, this is a closed off wall. So ideally, we go to here and we have an open wall. One of my biggest complaints about the West Coast Swing Jack and Jill competition circuit from the last, like, as long as I've been in it, since, you know, like 20 years now, is in Jack and Jill finals, the followers sit over there, the leaders sit over there. So when we come up to dance, we come up like this and we'd naturally be blocking to the audience. But if the leaders were on this side and if the followers were on this side, when we come together, look at that. Wouldn't that make a little more sense? And if we did that, then we wouldn't have to teach all the time. By the way, when you're here, go ahead and flip around if you're starting in closed position. Now, with the use of the floor space, if you can picture this beautiful dance floor as a canvas and you're a painter, there's no need to stay in one little line. Now, yes, it's true, West Coast Swing is dance in a slot, but that slot is infinitely long and infinitely wide. And we're talking about artistic discretion on the floor. We can use diagonals. We can change all of our angles. So I'm going to talk to you all about runs. Now, a run, like in gymnastics, is where you start like on the corner of the floor, right? And you're here, ha, and you do your tumble run, and you make it to that other side, whatever your angle is that you're trying to go, straight, diagonal, whatever. So let's say Tess and I are in a group heat, and there's people around us, but I have a clear space over there. Instead of just dancing in this space, we're going to look better on the floor if I can move us to a different place on the floor and migrate us back. When we're in a spotlight, lots of, and since the leader is usually the one having to make most of the choices in this spotlight, what happens is the leader can get stuck thinking, what move am I going to do? I have to think about the follower. I have to think about myself. I have to think about presentation. So I'm going to recommend that instead of thinking about moves, and if you can't just think about the dance itself, I want you to pick a spot on the floor that you're going to end up. Not know what moves you're going to do to get there, but pick a spot. So let's say Tess and I are back here and we're stage right back. And the first line I want to choose is going to be directly left stage center. So whatever I do with this movement, I'm going to get us to this side, okay? Then, sorry, I went off camera there. Then we're here. Then I'm going to say, okay, my next line is going to be, let's say, stage right front. So I'm going to dance West Coast swing and get to the side over here, dancing however we're going to do it. And we figure that on the fly to the music. So instead of thinking about just dancing in here and doing footwork and movements, use this whole beautiful space. Now, as I'm talking about movement, sugar pushes in general for the leader are death. Here's what I mean by that. A sugar push takes between 5 and 8 seconds to dance it depending on the music. So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. That was a 6-second sugar push, or 6 Mississippi sugar push. In those 6 seconds, if that's all the time the judges were going to see you, I'm back here as a judge, and I go, solid sugar push. But then the person, let's say I'm judging only leaders, and the leader next to me is doing 1 in Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. I can't count at the same time as this today. And they did that movement, and it also fit the music. Which one do you think would actually make finals if there had to be a choice? Be the one with a higher level of complexity, as long as it fits the music and it works well between the partnership. So for years, and this was taught to me when I started out, and I still disagree with this, and so I teach a sugar push is not your thinking step. If you need a thinking step, it should be a pass, an underarm pass, a left side pass, something else, because movement is life. If you have to have a sugar push as a base, make it a sugar push with a depth dynamic, or make it a sugar push that has texture and movement. Those are both sugar pushes. Make it a sugar push that scrolls, or a sugar push that's 4 beats instead of 6 beats. Use some accelerations or decelerations. Otherwise, if I do need a thinking step, I can make it a badass, or like a hand change left side pass. This 6 beat, to me, has better movement and life. And as a judge, I would rather see that than a sugar push. The other problem with the sugar push is that it tends to shut down my partner. Because if she has one arm free and one side of her body free, and I do a one-handed sugar push, she can do something with that. But because most leaders use two-handed sugar pushes, I have now shut down my follower. And in this competition, she's fighting for her life as well. She wants to make finals. And she's being judged on her own in prelims. Has nothing to do with me in general. Right? So more on that later. So have a different thinking step if you need one than a sugar push. Now, when we look at complex moves versus simple moves, so a sugar push is very simple. If you have a power move in your arsenal, let's say you're doing car wash whip to a pick and roll to a chasse to an open, something like that, and it were to fit the music. The judges are only seeing you for 8 to 15 seconds, and that can be generous depending on which competitions you're in. So if a judge sees you do that, they're going to mark you and move on, and mark that couple and move on. There is no time to go back and see you again, most likely. And if we're playing the odds, in theory, I could dance a phrase, 32 beats. 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3, 2, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7, 8, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. In theory, I could then do that immediately again, that exact same phrase. And that same judge won't see that. So if you're a novice competitor and you have an awesome phrase, you can make it into finals. This actually works. So you can take that same phrase and reuse it. I had one student in Los Angeles who really wanted to make finals. And he was not a musical dancer. He struggled with that. But he would work his butt off and practice sequences. That was his, he was an IT guy, and that was his mentality. Practice, 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 those things. And what we designed for him worked. He made it into finals, But then the problem was once you got to finals and if there was a spotlight, you can't reuse that. So the spotlight is a totally different animal than the group heat because the judges are watching just us. So this is where presentation becomes very important. When you walk onto the floor, you need to own the floor. If you walk on and you're not sure of yourself, the judges will see that. It doesn't mean they're judging you. Some judges say, some chief judges say, we want you to judge. As soon as that person walks on the floor, they're being judged. To me, when I chief judge, it's when the music starts. That's when my competition judging starts. But everything I see about you creates an image in my mind about you as a dancer. So really good to keep in mind when you walk on that floor, you go, I own this. This is amazing. Thank you for being here to watch me. I appreciate you giving me your energy, and I'm going to give that energy right back to you, and I'm going to entertain all of you with good dancing. So within that judging, I'm going to tell you a couple of the judges' secrets. How many of you have heard about the 3 T's? Timing, teamwork, and technique. Those 3 T's, oh, and Tess, the 4th T. Timing, teamwork, and technique, when I judge, are irrelevant. And here's why I say this. If you do not have timing, teamwork, and technique, you're not going to make finals and you're not going to place. Thank you for playing. Please work harder and try again. So when a judge says they're judging on the teamwork, timing, technique, to me that should be a mandatory baseline to be on the floor and to be judged. With that being said, open competition, anyone can come on in, but if you don't have those 3, you're not going to get to the next level. What I'm usually looking for, number 1 for me, is overall, I need to have a cohesive dance with a storyline. So when you're in a spotlight dance, if you jump in with a lift and a drop and you throw all your big moves in and the intro of the song is still going on, that doesn't tell a story. We want to build. It's for a spotlight. In a group heat, you don't really have the ability of the time to tell a story for the judges to watch you. So in a group heat, it's more important to have a higher level of difficulty. I would rather see you tell a story with this whip rather than telling a story with this whip. Does that make sense? So, but the goal here at the same time is that you don't want to practice on the competition floor or the performance floor. You practice beforehand, and then you bring your A game of whatever you're doing best. If you do a move that works 1 or 2 out of every 10 times, you shouldn't be doing it until you've practiced it enough so that it actually works 90% of the time or higher. When you are competing, usually we have a bib number on. As I said earlier, there's so many competitions that I've judged all over the world where I'm standing in the back and I'm watching dancers and I literally have to move to the side of the floor to see a bib number because all I'm getting is profile dance. So as a leader, I'd be here. As a leader, I'm here, and I'm never here or here. I would recommend trying this the next convention you're at or the next social dance you're at, and look at the floor and see how many times you see a front line or a back line versus what most people do socially, which is focus on their partner to create the best dance that they can possibly have there. Now, as I'm judging, I have a certain number of seconds before I have to go to the next couple. This is necessary because we only have so much time as judges, so many songs to look at all the couples on the floor. Smaller heats of couples get seen for longer time or get seen multiple times. And is it really fair that the first song might be a fast contemporary, the second song might be slow blues, and the third song might be a fast blues? And I'm only seeing you for 8 seconds on the third song? That's the luck of the Jack and Jill. It's random partnering and random music. But in every dance, you don't just have 2 partners, you actually have 3 partners. The third partner is the music, or the DJ who's providing the music. So sometimes you don't want to dance with that partner, but you have that partner. So in terms of sportsmanship, If I draw Tess, I'm super excited to draw Tess. I'm going to be happy about it, and I'm going to show that. If I don't want to draw Tess, I'm still going to be happy about it because good sportsmanship is super important. If I don't like Tess, I'm still going to be like, oh my God, it's good to see you. And I hate fakeness, but there's nothing worse than bad sportsmanship. Now, you also have the music and the DJ that you're dancing with. In my opinion, if you like the tracks that the DJ plays, you should go tell them. Feedback for DJs is so important. People don't, like back in the day, it'd be live music, right? Like Tess is a singer and a musician, and when her band plays, if I like it, I'm gonna frickin' applaud. I'm gonna applaud a lot. There were times back in the day when we would applaud for the DJs when we liked a track. And since that's gone away, I would recommend telling your social DJs and your competition DJs what you liked. Now, sometimes we see competition levels, novice, intermediate, advanced, all-star, champion, professional. Sometimes we see those levels as a quantification of who you are as a dancer or a person. And I just need to say this. Just because you compete at a novice level doesn't mean you're not the best dancer in the world. Just at that moment, you are at the novice competition level because that's where you're at. I came into West Coast Swing as a Lindy Hopper. And as a Lindy Hopper, I started in novice and I spent 9 months in novice for West Coast Swing. I was already a professional dancer, but I worked through the rinks in order to make sure that I would have the skill sets necessary to be on the competition floor for West Coast Swing. So, how do you decide what level you want to dance? Let's say you're in novice, you've signed up for novice because that's where your points are. How do you decide what level? Because this is a common question. Like, what moves should I do? What should I focus on? In novice, I've heard that in novice, judges want to see clean basics, third foot position, good stretch, and they want to see your basics. I would argue that this is not true. I would argue that those basics, those teamwork, timing, and technique, those 3 T's, should be understood. And therefore, you should dance the level that you want to be at on the competition floor. If you want to be in All-Stars, if you want to be in Champions, dance that dance. But don't overdance your partner. And as a follower or leader, don't ask them to do something that's outside their skill set or that you can't lead or follow. So even though I'm now, let's say, a novice leader in a novice competition, I'm not going to triple step, and send my partner out. Instead, if the music says, go into ochos with a front and back line and then send your partner back somewhere to present yourself, that's how I'm going to dance. Pretend the judges don't know you, because they probably don't, and dance your best dance at the level that you wish you were at then, not the level you're at now. At the same time, don't let that level judge you as who you are as a dancer, because if you work hard enough and long enough, you can make it to whatever level you would like. Similarly, by trying to make yourself look good, because let's say Tess is being judged on her own as a follower and I'm being judged on my own as a leader, you want to look good without making your partner look bad. So let's say Tess can't do a one-footed spin. And I feel, the first time I give her a whip with an outside turn, I feel that she's sort of shaky and I shouldn't lead her into a one-footed. Why on earth would I try to lead her into a one-footed turn, which would make her look bad and therefore me look bad? Even though we are dancing together, judges are told whether they're going to be judging leaders or followers, and in some competitions we do double duty, and I have to give the I have to give the leaders a score and the followers a score. But my score is not on the partnering. It's not on the connection that we have together, the musicality connection together. It's what is the leader doing? There's a score. What's the follower doing? There's a score. If there's a timing issue, let's say we're dancing off time, 5 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8 and a 1 and a 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, mambo swing. As a judge, I go, whose fault is it? Who is off time? If the leader's off time, you're out, great. If the follower's off time, you're out, great. I don't let it impact the other person. I then, as a judge, I can see maybe the leader's off time and the follower's trying to fix it. a 7 and an 8 and a 1 and a 2. Oh, and she's delaying more to try and fix that. I won't judge the follower down on being off time if it's the leader's inability to stay on time, and vice versa. Now, as there are 3 partners in this dance, right now the follower, the leader, and the music, we also have in presentation the audience. So that's really another member of our dance. In our dance, you could be a voyeur. You could be sneaking peeks at us, and we are simply just connected in here and enjoying this dance. Sometimes we want to take a quick peek out and say, hey, welcome, and then we come back to each other. Sometimes the songs say it's all about this presentation, and no matter what we do, we should go back to the audience and say, hey, we're here. There are appropriate times to engage with the audience, and appropriate times to dance together, and appropriate times to take peeks. This is going to be based upon you and your partner and the feel of the song and the feel of the room. If I'm dancing in a room, let's say Tess and I are doing a performance, and we have 2 people watching, I'm not going to be presenting to this corner, right? I'm going to be integrating with those people and coming back. If we're dancing in the round and there's people all around us, maybe we want to acknowledge those people, and then we acknowledge back to front audience. And then like Ronnie and Brandy's US Open routine years ago, they turned and they approached this wall, and then they turned and approached this wall of the audience, and it was beautiful because they acknowledged more than just a front camera. So another important thing is to dance to the genre of the music that's being played. Now, this seems like something that should be really well understood, but unfortunately, dancers of, let's say, my genre are better versed in blues dancing and faster music. Dancers in the newer school are better at slow lyrical movement or hip-hop movement. And you tend to practice and dance more to what you like and what you love in terms of music. So everywhere in the world you go, you're going to have DJs here play more, Texas plays more blues, New England plays more hip-hop. I'm just making this up. But it's really important to practice the different genres, because currently in 2020, what's happening is that just because there's a lyrical song on and you're dancing fast hip-hop feel doesn't mean you're not going to make finals. It's sad but true, right? The judges are taking the dancers who are dancing the best, but not necessarily dancing to the music the best. What will be happening as it gets harder and harder to make finals, if there's a blues song on and you're not dancing staccato blues with the footwork that you need for that blues, eventually there'll be enough people doing that movement that they'll make finals and you won't. So everyone that's coasting now on what they're really good at and just taking that that square peg and shoving it in the round hole, eventually that won't work. So it's really important to listen to a variety of music and practice movement to a variety of music. So when I judge, I have a category. This is for spotlights, routines, and improv that I call the magic of the dance. Like literally on my score sheet, I have a box that says magic. And I give that magic a score unto itself. How does it make me feel as a human watching? Am I able to see the music through their bodies instead of just hear the music and see movement? For the magic score, it doesn't matter to me if you have the worst posture in the world or you have 2 bent knees the entire time. It's just how I feel. Because this is so important, that means that you should be acknowledging how everyone else feels when they look at your dance. Now, this was really hard for me. It's hard for me because coming from a social Lindy Hop world, all I cared about was feeling my partner, feel rhythm. I wanted to feel movement, and I wanted to groove. Even to this day, it's hard for me to acknowledge the audience because I don't care about that. I care about this and this connection. That's my passion. Some people care more about this, and they're much better performers in terms of acknowledging everyone, but they don't as much care about the connection part. And then some people can just do everything perfectly, and kudos to them. So in that magic of the dance, You want to make sure that you are using the floor space. Or maybe a song is so simple that we can't use the floor space because the song says, just hang here and just hang here and do something that's within this small space instead of going right to the open position and engaging open. So on the circuit, you might be seeing lots of routines, pro-am routines, rising star routines, classic routines, showcase routines, cabaret routines. You might be people putting together routines for exhibitions. And there's a current thought that when you do a routine, you'll do better in a Jack and Jill or a Strictly, simply because you're doing the routine. Now, this is sort of true, but not for that reason. When you are creating a routine, you are practicing certain sections of dance in such a finite, exact way where you're hitting a line, you're engaging this muscle, you're breathing at a certain time. We have certain movements in a partnership that we're practicing. And that will come back to us when we're dancing anything else, dancing socially at a club or on the competition floor in a Jack and Jill. We're going to enhance those skill sets and bring those skill sets to whatever we're doing. So if you do have the time to put together a routine, either choreographing it yourself or paying a professional to do that, it's still good learning and it will enhance your overall level of dance. The other reason why people think that doing a routine places you higher is because you have more awareness from judges. So if I'm on the competition floor, let's say I'm an amateur and I'm dancing a pro-am with Tess. The judges will see me dance with Tess in a spotlight some other time during the weekend. And then my hope is that when they see me on the floor, they won't just be like, oh, that's Doug number 420. They'll be like, oh, that's Doug who dances with Tess. I get the recognition from that. Now that can be good or bad, right? Because number one, what if they don't like my dancing, right? I'm doing a spotlight on the floor. They have an extra 3 minutes to just watch me. Or maybe they love my dancing. So it can go either way. But it is true that the more you are out there and the more you're out there by yourself or you and a partner, the more you're going to be seen. So as long as you own it, do a routine. Work on something other than your dedicated skill set for improvisation. If you're a routine dancer, if you specialize in routines, then you should be working more on your social. We, in general, to be the best dancer, you can never be the best dancer because it's an art form, right? But we try and hit both of those, our social improv skills, our presentation skills, and part of the presentation skills is learning choreography and dancing routines. Now, when you're on the competition floor, let's say in a Jack and Jill or a Strictly or a routine, it's very important to know the rules ahead of time. And in every judge's meeting, the chief judge usually says, so has everyone read the rules? And a few of us judges go, yes, I read them on the airplane on the way here, or I've reviewed the rules, I know the rules for this event. But as a competitor, not many people read the rules. And this is where it can get sort of sticky. Maybe jeans aren't allowed. And as soon as I walk on the floor in jeans or something with a rip, maybe I'm not making finals because of that, because in the rules specifically, like at the US Open, you're not allowed to wear jeans on the floor. Some events, you're not allowed to do lifts. Some events, you're not allowed to do drops. This came up a few months ago where like, there are no drops allowed in this Jack and Jill. Like, there's no weight supported move. So in theory, this would not be allowed. And since that's such an integral part of our dance to lead a drop, it's important for you to know ahead of time. And if you have a problem with it or a question with the rules, you need to find the chief judge or whoever's in charge of being the competitor liaison to talk to them at that event. I would highly recommend that before you go to the event, you prepare and you read the rules so that you can bring something up if it's not fair to you or fair to the event or the people at the event. So know the rules whenever you're entering a scenario. Now, as we work on our craft and we work on our streamlined connection and the perfect connection where it just feels amazing, just know that it will never be perfect. Again, it will never be perfect. It will never be perfect. It will never be perfect. Perfection is overrated because what's perfect to me is not perfect to Tess, is not perfect to a judge. So what will win is edge or magic. So if you have that grit, if you have that, I love watching live music. And it's not just live music, but it's like that guitar player who's not just playing, but is like so into it. They're like, oh, I can't contain it. That's the edge and the magic that I look for from dancers. Now, if nobody has it on the floor, then perfect will win. So if this is novice division and the leader knows his 3rd foot position and can hold a rhythm, and he is, that leader is the best leader in that heat, then that leader will make finals and that leader might win. But overall, I want you all to just dance, but to dance with the awareness of your space and your partner. Yeah. Now, a famous musician, Yo-Yo Ma, famous cello player, somebody once asked him, what is it about the quality of the notes that you play that makes you better than everyone else? I'll never forget this. He said, it's not the quality of the notes that I play. It's the quality of the space between the notes. It's that breath. It's that transition. It's not the hit, it's the ricochet and how we control and engage that ricochet, which reminds us about going back on my left as a leader or forward on her right as a follower. It's about how do we engage and get to that place. When my body moves through space, salsa is the easiest way to show this, but if we're dancing a bad salsa basic, it's static and there's a pause versus a good salsa basic that has that breath and it has this space and that transition between movements. So thank you to Yo-Yo Ma for greatly changing my own dance by just having me acknowledge it's the spaces that are as important or even more important than the movements themselves. We can also extrapolate that, talking about lifts and drops again. Just because Tess and I might do the most amazing lift and have a horrible transition out doesn't mean that lift's going to mean anything. Without the transition, the judges remember the last thing that they see more than the first thing that they see. Therefore, if you end something badly, it's going to be more of a hindrance, which means that when we are dancing, you always have to think about payoff versus level of difficulty. If this move is easy for me to lead, which it is after doing that for 18 plus years now, the payoff can be high because it looks cool, and the level of difficulty for me to lead it on any follower is low, so I can do that one a lot. But if there's a movement that's really hard for me to lead, let's say a double turn with a head loop, something like that, right? If the level of difficulty, if that would be just as cool as a single turn with an elbow wrap, then I should do the single turn with the elbow wrap because the payoff is not going to be as good by trying something that's riskier. This is something that you just have to look at and say, is it worth the cheese? I think that's the phrase. I've been eating a lot of cheese lately. So is it worth the cheese? Do I want that cheese? Maybe I do. Now with musicality, as a leader and follow partnership, we're both trying to hit the music, and ideally, we're dancing to the same rhythms and the same music, but not necessarily at the same time. Simply meaning call and response can be one of your best friends. So let's say I hit something in the music, and then Tess hits something in the music, and then we can hit something together in the music. That's going to play better as we tell a story with our dance than at the same time going, we're here, and we're here, and we're here, and we're here. So there's a level above that, and that's the call and response. Now, there's another reason why I use call and response a lot, or what I call is hitting a strong pose, like an invitation lead, and letting my follower do something, and actually letting my follower continue. The main reason, leaders, you might want to do this is if you don't know where you are in the music. If you can't hear the one, and you're looking around the room at other leaders, and you're like, I don't know where the one is, and neither do they, especially when I dance with Tess, she will always hear every bit of the music. So if I'm not sure where I'm at in the music and we're fighting over where the one is, I'll stop moving, allow my follower to get me back on time, and then I'll be like, oh, I got it now. At the same time, I'll never verbalize that. When I'm on the competition floor, the mouth stays closed. Again, when you're on the competition floor, the mouth stays closed. If you talk, the judges go, they must have made a mistake if I didn't see it. I'm looking over here, I'm scanning the floor, and I see someone talking. Talking doesn't belong on the dance floor. If you're really into the song and you want to sing it, great. Just realize that your mouth is opening and closing, and it could look like you're talking to your partner. Or the most common reason you talk to your partner goes like this. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
And it's built into that habit of saying, I'm sorry when we mess up something, or we, whatever it is. So do not talk on the dance floor. With musicality, it's really important to remember that it doesn't have to be something super big. Right? You don't have to throw a lift to be musical. If we look back at some of the most celebrated dancers in our genre, look at Jordan and Tatiana, and you look at their routines, which are freaking brilliant. But the audience response to most of these routines, the biggest response is when there's a small acknowledgement or acknowledgement, something in the music that plays so well, but it reads to the back rows. So just because it's small doesn't mean it's not the most important thing, just like Yo-Yo Ma's quote about the space between the notes being more important than the notes themselves. Now, as I talk about the back row, I'll never forget this. I got this from Benji Schwimmer. As I started out in Showcase, and I was talking with Benji, he was telling me about projection. And the projection that he was talking about wasn't project to the people sitting on the floor in the front row. And it wasn't project to the people in the seats. It was project past the back walls. So if I'm going to just open my arm, this is opening my arm to people in a studio. This is opening my arm to the people in the audience. And this is opening my arm with the energy as if I want to power through those walls, past the stadium, and out into outer space. Benji actually said you take a booger and you flick it that far, which sounds about right. But you want to project as far as you possibly can with as much engagement as you can. Now, that word engagement is really important. In this intensive so far, I've talked about engaging our muscles, engaging our core, engaging between our partnership, engaging with the music. That engagement, to me, is the magic, where I want to see the articulation of that movement. And that is why we train. That's why we train routines for hours. We train our social dancing for hours, is because the better we can be at it, and each of the individual, if I can do a slow bicep curl and a slow pull-up, then when I'm doing those two things at the same time, it's going to look even better. So we practice our footwork, but we don't just practice our footwork, we engage and we practice that footwork so that we have that base. Now, as I stand here and I judge followers in, let's say, a Jack and Jill prelims, and there's lots of followers on the floor. Followers, please remember that body flight and basic movement can be seen and judged in every element of your dance. As a professional trained judge, I can see Tess dancing, and I can take that and a one and extrapolate from that simple settle, stretch, and go movement what the rest of her dance will look like. When we look at fundamentals of the dance, and we have dancers that say, I need more styling for my competition, I need more movements for my competition. Yeah, you do. But you also need to make sure that you might have the best styling in the world. Tess, leave me for a second. 2 sugar pushes. But if that's my one, and this is my triple step, it doesn't matter how many arm stylings I know, if I don't have the body flight that is expected to have timing, teamwork, and technique, the styling and the movements won't matter. The hijacks won't matter. Throwing yourself into a dip on the ground won't matter. Also, looking at a lead-follower partnership for the follower and the leader, the judges will be able to see if you actually are compressing and stretching or not. So check this. I'm going to ask Tess to lead me. 2 sugar pushes, 2 sugar pushes. Now on the first one, notice I stretch, I move, I compress, I move, I stretch. The second one, I move, and I move myself. This can be seen by the judges, and this marks the follower down. Leaders, yeah, it sucks when your follower is not finishing the rules of physics and Newton's first law that an object in motion should remain in motion until impacted by you. It sucks. And with the right judges, that won't judge the leader down in a prelims, but it will judge the follower down. So followers, please remember, try to follow the leader because that's the current role in the dance that you are playing. Do you trust the leader? Every time Tess tries to compress, maybe I don't let her compress. So then she has to make it look, so I'm not giving any compression. She has to make it look like she's compressing. And how do we do that? Through engagement. She engages her core more. She engages the legs more. She moves to and from her wrist on her own. And these are ways that you can make yourself look good, followers, when you do have a leader that may not be as good. Now, there's lots of times we finish a dance and they were told to stand and put our bib numbers facing the judges, and then we're told to leave the floor, and it goes like this. And even though we are in a gender-neutral society, to me it's very important that as a partnership who has been paired, who's danced together for certain songs, we dance together, therefore we're going to leave the floor together. I've actually heard leaders say, well, why would I walk her off the floor there if I'm going over there? Because that's a social nicety. Does it mean we have to go where she wants? No, but we should leave the floor together. The only exception to this is if, let's say, the judges tell the leaders or tell the followers, stay where you are, there's another heat of dancers coming up, allow the followers to go, do not escort them off. Yes. At the same time, it can be very frustrating for the judges, like really frustrating. Let's say Tess and I are both leaders, and we're both in line, and the followers are being called up. And as a follower gets called up, Tess goes to get her follower. And the judges who are back here are like, no, I'm writing down your number, I'm writing down what you're wearing. You shouldn't leave the line to be polite unless you're told to. So when you're entering the floor and you're called up on your own, you're on your own and you should stand there. If a judge is behind us trying to look at our numbers and make notes, and Tess and I are here talking sideways, you can't see the numbers, and that's frustrating as well. So behave and pay attention when you're on the competition floor waiting for instructions, because you don't want to give that judge a negative vibe right away that your time is more important than their time. The judges are doing their job. They're working hard, and you want them to know that your bib number is 069. Okay, great. I needed to know that to make sure you're in the right spot, because that's what my job is right now. Your job is to wait, get a partner, and dance your ass off. Now, the second part about the sportsmanship with the leader and follow, I'm going to be the leader again, Tess be the follower. Let's say we finish our dance, and honestly, that was the best dance of my life. And for Tess, that was the worst dance of her life. We are going to both pretend like it was the best dance of our life. Because, I kid you not, more times than not, the dance, let's say we both felt as the worst dance of our life, that dance could win. Like this literally happens like every other convention or so. The people thought it was the worst thing ever, and the audience and the judges were like, no, that was spot on. It was musical. So just because it's bad doesn't mean you should leave the floor thinking it's bad. You should leave the floor going, that was a first place horrible dance. Yeah. Now, one more thing for the followers. If you are a more basic follower and you don't have lots of styling or musicality, you can do something called style vomit. Style vomit, yeah, is where you take stylings that you learn. You buy the instructional video that teaches you 50 stylings for the follower, and you put them in non-stop, no matter what the music is. So Tess is moving through space. She's doing all the stylings, all the arm movements, all the body rolls, all the hair combs, all that stuff. Style vomit will take you to a certain level, and that's it. Past that level, you need to target your style vomit and extrapolate what's going to fit the music, and that's what is musicality. So we need to learn more movements and more styling. And if you look at the field of followers as a follower in a competition, you go, everyone's the same, then style vomit. But otherwise, the goal eventually is to not do it non-stop, but just do what actually impacts the partnership and the music. So as we're talking about engagement, it's very important to realize that how you bend and straighten your legs can play a big role in not only your solo movement, but in our partnered movement. There are some dancers that dance completely with bent knees as a leader or follower. These are some of the most decorated dancers competition-wise and socially in our community. Some dancers dance with perfectly tall, straight legs. They can wear high heels and work on keeping those legs perfectly straight when they can. A good rule here is that when you're going to bend a knee, engage and bend. And when you're going to straighten, engage and straighten and work your muscles. There are some competitions or some judges' seminars that say, West Coast swing, you have to have one bent knee and one straight knee at all times. So I have a bend, and when I straighten, I bend, and when I straighten, I bend. And to me, if you're saying there's an always, that's always not going to work. You're allowed to bend both your knees at the same time as a leader or follower. You cannot keep both legs straight. Like if we both had leg casts on, you have to actually bend your knees to move. But when we do it, we can do it beautifully.